Hello everyone again, and welcome to this particular video. And in here we're going to continue from our series on videos concerning linear relations, and in here we're going to show two ways that I may or might represent linear relations with respect to the equations. One type of equation is the one that shows the slope, and in here we see that this slope is also shown alongside the y-intercept form, where we see from our previous videos this format y equals mx plus b, where m is known to be the slope and yb represents the y-intercept. So in this particular case, let's label this as m is equal to the slope, or we call this the rate of change. And from our previous videos and also various classes, we know that to find the slope, it is the change in y divided by the change in x. And on the other side we have the b, and b represents the y-intercept. And to find the y-intercept, what we need to realize is that we have to make x to be equal to 0. So this is one way of representing linear equations, and the other form is called standard form, and this shows the relationship between a, b and c with respect to x and y, and this must be equal to 0. So it means that I'm moving all variables to one side of the equation and the other side of the equation will be equal to 0. So what are the rules that are required in here? The first rule is that there should be no fractions with respect to a, b and c. So no fractions for a, b and c. However, on the other side, which is the second rule, is that we must make a to be positive. A must be a positive value. So once we're able to do just that, then we're good to go. And I might give you different questions. I might say that you should get me the standard form given the slope y-intercept form, or vice versa. I might give you the standard form and I might tell you to give me the slope y-intercept form. So moving on to various examples, we'll do the ones that involves fractions, and that should be a good way to actually get your hands, I will say, really strong in this particular concept. So in here we're given this particular question, and it says here that we should graph using the x and y intercept. So in here we have our x and y intercepts, and we recognize here that we have some value of x, and this value is actually having a constant for its y, and the coefficient for the x, coefficient for its y, and we have a constant which in this case is equal to plus 2 over 5. So once we have this, how do we go about solving this question, which is to be able to graph this particular equation? So graphing this equation, we see here that in here we have to first find our x-intercept, because we know that that is one component that is required for we to find that particular graph. And in here we need to make our y to be equal to 0 in order for we to find the x-intercept. So in order to do just that, we'll rewrite our equation as we see here. We have our negative 1 over 8 x plus 2 over 5, but in here our y is equal to 0, and then this is equal to 2 over 5. So once we have that, we know that 2 over 5 times 0 is equal to 0, and what we're left with is negative 1 over 8 x is equal to 2 over 5. So in here what we see is that this x here is actually noticed to be a numerator, because x over 1 multiplied is equal to negative 1 times x, which is equal to x over 8. Don't forget the negative. and this is equal to 2 over 5. So we know the strategy. In order for we to avoid the fractions, we cross multiply to make everything to be non-fractioned. So as a result of that, what we get here is to multiply our negative x by 5, and in here this is equal to 8 times 2. So as a result of that, what we have is negative 5x is equal to 8 times 2, which is known to be 16. And once we have that, this should be an easy solution in here, and we should be able to get our answer to be x to be equal to negative 16 over 5, because in this case x here is actually going to be isolated, and we are dividing both sides by negative 5. So our answer here when y is equal to 0 is negative 16 over 5. So therefore, when x is negative 16 over 5, y is equal to 0. So that is the first step, which is to find the x-intercept when we have that particular form, and the other part is to find the y-intercept. And to find the y-intercept, we have to make what equal to 0? Yes, x to be equal to 0. So if we put that in our equation, it means that we have negative 1 over 8. This time it is multiplied by 0 plus 2 over 5 y, and this is equal to 2 over 5. So in this case, since negative 1 over 8 multiplied by 0 gives us 0, what we're left with is positive 2 over 5. Y is equal to 2 over 5. We know that y is the numerator. It's like saying y over 1, but this time you're multiplying it by 2 over 5, which means that it is going to be 2 times y over 5 is equal to 2 over 5. So in here, what we do as always is to cross multiply in order for we to find the y. Once we cross multiply, we turn our fractions on both sides into just non-fractions, and what we have as a result is 2y times 5 is equal to 2 times 5. So 2 times 5 is 10. Y is brought down, and this here is 2 times 5, 10. And here we have to isolate y, which means we divide both sides by 10. And what we get here is y is equal to 1. So once we have this, then it means that our y-intercept when x is equal to 0 is equal to 1. So once we have these two, we have 1 to be, in this case, our x-intercept in here to be this value, and we have the other one, which is our y-intercept, to be that particular value, which is 1. So what we do is that all we need is 2 points. All we need is 2 points. We found our first point, which is negative 16 over 5, and y is equal to 0, and the other point here is 0 and 1. So once we have these 2 points, then it means that if we draw our graph, which I'm going to draw right here, this is our y. This is going to be a rough graph. If you draw it properly, you should be fine. Y and x. Then it means that in this particular region here, if we do our coordinates, this is 5, 10, let's make it this 15, and this will be negative 5, negative 10, negative 15. And for the x, we have, let's just make this negative 1. This one should be positive 1. So if we make this positive 2, this here will be -2. And once we have this, then what we have is that our first point will be when x is 0, y is 1. So that means our y-intercept here is going to be around here where x is 0, y is 1, somewhere around there. When x is equal to -16/5, which is somewhere around, if this is 1, this is 2, it will be between somewhere around -3, so it'll be somewhere around here. And once you draw your line, this should be your graph. So if we have our graph right here, start from here, and we just draw our line all the way, that is your graph over there. So if you want to find your specific line, we are able to actually draw our graph here based on what we have, which is the standard form, I will say, which is given right here. Or you can change this form into equation of a line form, where you have your slope and you have your specific y-intercept. So this is one way of graphing when you're given a specific form, which in this case is your standard form. And if you want to do another version, which is given this question where we have to write this equivalent fraction, or sorry, equation, into this particular form, y equals mx plus b, which is this right here. Then if we go into question b, b says that you're given -8x plus 4y plus 12. And if you're doing this, it means that what you have to do in this case is to isolate 4y. So isolate 4y means that you're going to make this to look like y equals mx plus b. So to make this y equals mx plus b, where I say y, I keep it on one side of the equation and the others will be moved over. So if I rewrite this particular equation, which is -8x plus 4y plus 12 equals to 0, it means that I have to move +12 over to the other side and -8x to the other side. If you're moving from one side of the equal sign to the other, it means that you're going to change your sign. So in here, for the first step, we'll make this first and this second step. So for number 1, it means that in here we're going to subtract 12 from both sides. And in here, this actually, let's just rewrite this as ax plus by plus c is equal to 0. So it means that our c is 12. So if we move our 12 to the other side, means that you're subtracting. That means here that our equation will be at -8x plus 4y plus 12. Don't forget to put the -12, and this here is equal to 0, and we're subtracting both sides from 12. That means this will be -12. So this as a result will be equal to -8x plus 4y, -12 negative plus +12 will give us 0, and what we're left with is 0 minus 12, which is -12. So the next step is, for step 2, is to, well, not subtracting, because here we have -8, -8. So this -8 right here, we're going to add 8x from both sides. So instead of writing subtract this time, here I don't I rather do the opposite, which is to add 8x from both sides. And as a result of that, what we have is we have plus 8x minus 8x plus 4y is equal to negative 12, and don't forget your other side we add 8x. So in here what we have as a result is positive 8x minus 8x gives us 0. What we're left here is 4y is equal to positive 8x, which is rewritten as that, and negative 12. So in here we have our y to be having a coefficient which in this case is positive 4. In here we're going to do the last step, which is to divide both sides by positive 4. So in this particular case, on the left side we're going to divide this by 4, or positive 4, and on the other side we are dividing this by positive 4 and negative 12 by positive 4. So as a result, this cancels, and what we're left with is y, and on this other side here, positive 8 divided by positive 4 gives us positive 2, and on this other side, which I'm going to write here, this is positive 2x, and on the other side we have 12 divided by 4, which gives us 3, and negative divided by positive gives us negative. So in here we have our equation of a line which has in here both the slope to be m, and this m is equal to positive 2, and on this other side we have our y-intercept, which is b, and this is equal to negative 3. So this is one way of actually going from standard form, which is given as a question over the top, and you're asked to change that into this slope y-intercept form, which is what we have right here. So that is about it for this particular video. I know this video is long. On our next video we're going to see how we can transform our y-intercept slope form back into a specific standard form which is given over there. So all the same, thanks for following me through this. Please do all the necessary examples and also other questions that are assigned, and we'll talk to you very soon. All the same, stay smart and believe in yourselves.